The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download their top-rated sportsbook app and sign up using promo code RTRS. And brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. And Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers schedule is out. Well, first half of the schedule is out. Mike and I will go through games 1 through 32 and pick a winner and loser for each one.
Oh, God.
No. I couldn't get Adam to do it either. Some more Sixers talked, including Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We will talk about that. Embiid actually said he wants to win a championship for Philadelphia, so that's nice. Kyrie Irving wants to let his play do the talking. Will Mike and I go on a trip to Napa? And if Embiid and Simmons actually did become roommates, who would be the Mike and who would be the Andrew Sharp? That is a question from a listener we'll get to. I don't have anything else. Let's get going. Without any further ado, here's Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who claims still that he does not look down on Eagles fans. That is Mike Levin.
I mean, I'm still watching the games. I think that's as much reason for anyone to look down on me as anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sharp texted me. He was like, LOL, Mike definitely looks down on Eagles fans. His response.
Sharp looks down on himself as a guy that now has to root for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I know. It's an amazing combo because he did vote for Westbrook for that MVP, which I thought was a fraud. But he
had a vote?
He did.
What a joke.
Yeah. I think he had a vote. I'm pretty sure he had a vote.
People get money and contracts based on voting, and friggin' Sharp isn't there.
Well, luckily he was a fraud before. Now everybody knows he's a total scammer. He's just a fucking lawyer doing a basketball podcast and charging people for it. Come on. The Apple Podcast 5-star review, the review of the week is brought to you by Kinetic Skateboarding. I got this at Kinetic. This, if you're on video, this Thrasher hoodie that makes me a poser, but it's a great hoodie. You get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver at kineticskateboarding.com. Now, this is a great review. I can't read the entire subject line, though, because it goes on longer than Apple shows. And if you're a listener, I need to know what the rest of this said. So the subject line says, I've been listening so long, I've stopped being mad when... ... So I need to know what's up there. Anyway, the review, who cares anyway? One dude is like a cross between AOC, Papa Crude, and a millennial version of the Celtics loving writer who shall not be named. The other is pretty normal except for his weird anti-Jimmy Butler fetish. I loved them for 3 years, hated them for 2, and like them again.
Papa Crude?
Yeah, so I Googled that. He just looks like a caveman. Maybe it's the hair thing, because I think Papa Crude has big hair. I don't watch the Crudes.
Is that Nicolas Cage and the Crudes? Is that a movie that people reference?
But I think it's I think it's a cartoon. I think it's a cartoon series. Yeah, I think the Crudes is a cartoon series. Yeah, so I think it's
a series of movies. But I didn't know it was.
But I thought it was like
something that people spoke about.
I think kids like it.
So maybe this is an 8-year-old that's responding.
Yeah, it's a
good comment from our local child.
Think of all the other sponsorship opportunities having 8-year-olds listening till we start talking about toys, fucking fun fruits. Before we start with Sixer stuff, I wanted to start with a little comedy, as Kyrie Irving is really going to provide things for us, I believe, all year. So instead of doing his first media availability, he released a statement via, I think it was maybe an iPhone Note statement, but here it is. COVID-19 has impacted us all in many ways, so I pray for the safety and health of our communities domestically and abroad. I'm truly excited for the season to start, and I'm also praying that everyone remains safe and healthy throughout this journey. Instead of speaking to the media today, I'm issuing this statement to ensure that my message is conveyed properly. I am committed to show up to work every day, ready to have fun, compete, perform, and win championships alongside my teammates and colleagues in the Nets organization. My goal this season is to let my work on and off the court speak for itself. Life hit quite differently this year, and it requires me to move differently. So this is the beginning of that change. He is
I just wanted to know what I get being, I'm tired of the media misconstruing my statements. I get that it's like, let me just release a full one myself and get it as clear as possible. I get that. That makes sense. What is the message that he wants to convey properly here? What is it?
Well,
I don't see it. It's like the beginning of a message and then kind of the end of a message, and then there's really nothing in the middle to say, like, well, here's what I'm trying to say. Like, he's committed to show up to work every day. Great. That's it.
And by the way, his comments are not misconstrued. They're all ridiculous. I mean, like, there's very little that Kyrie Irving does that is, he's one of those guys that thinks he's manipulating everyone, but really nobody's manipulated by it. They all just kind of laugh. And it is very easy. There are plenty of players who are not defined by what they say, by just not really saying very much at all, just sort of getting out, doing the one game at a time sort of stuff. But Kyrie, I just can't.
And if you have something interesting to say, then you say it. Feel free to say it. But there's nothing here. It is an empty sandwich.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to release my own sandwich. Well, there's nothing in the sandwich. You just threw 2 pieces of bread there and you didn't even toast them.
It does say that it requires him to move differently, and this is the beginning of that change. And the beginning of the change seems like Kyrie Irving will not be appearing on Zoom to talk to the reporters that cover the basketball team that he plays for, which is honestly, when we talk about, a social change in this world, if just more basketball players who do not talk to the reporters on Zoom that cover the team, I think we're all going to be a lot closer together at the end of this.
Move the way you want, Kyrie.
Russ Joy, who does the Snow the Goalie podcast, asked me on Twitter, because I had also posted a JJ Redick piece of audio where he is ruining the fact that he has to now do defensive drills because Stan Van Gundy is his coach again. He asked, and I asked you, Mike, if you're forced to sit in a room for 4 hours with JJ Redick or Kyrie Irving, who would it be? This wasn't clear to me until just now.
I think I could probably have a more conversational, normal time with JJ, but he would annoy me with that. Kyrie, I think, is so far away. Kyrie's a little bit like, this is a reference that I'm not going to stand by. Kyrie reminds me a little bit of Sonia Morgan, where she's kind of just like in her own world. She's a housewife on Real Housewives of New York.
Okay.
And is a delight in her own way, but is not just operating on the same plane as anyone. And so I think I could have fun talking to Kyrie and seeing what's it like up there. Whereas JJ is like, I could have the same conversation that I have with other people with JJ, but it would be annoying.
Yeah.
It would be an annoying time.
Kyrie Irving doesn't actively annoy me. I think he's ridiculous and silly, but JJ Redick actively annoys me. And to your point, I would love to just drill down on all the things that Kyrie has said with Kyrie. I would love to just say, all right, let's start with the flat earth thing. Let's start with each one of those things and let's see where we end up.
You're going to be the guy to explain it to him.
No. I want him to explain it to me. I would love to come out of this changed, to have me Be like, oh, I never looked at it that way. Whatever. So the schedule came out on Friday, or the first half of the schedule, first 32 games. Something that I don't think we have talked about, and Kofi emailed us and said this. Hey guys, how do you feel about the Sixers not having a home court advantage this season, at least for the foreseeable future? I worry they could completely suck, as they have never been good at closing games on the road. Now, we realized we had asked the question, was the bubble more like home or on the road? And everyone sort of laughed at us and said it's obviously the road. And I think we had enough proof of that. How much does them not having a home crowd hurt? I think it's kind of significant, actually, at least if history teaches us anything. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to depend on them kind of just deciding to do it together. And I think that is a real team unity type of thing, where we didn't see that they had it last year, and they needed the fans to be screaming at them all the time. I wonder if they're going to do the thing the NFL has done with the baseball did it too. So baseball's piped in crowd noise was actually piped into the stadium. Football's sort of is. So there's a white noise hum that the players hear that does not come through TV or radio, but there's an actual produced audience track on TV and radio for football. They actually went and they got actual crowds from the stadiums that they're playing in and use that, and somebody is operating it. I am actually, I like it, especially on radio. I think it sounds good on the Eagles broadcast, the crowd noise. It really just sounds normal. It doesn't bother me on TV. Do you have a feeling, a pro or anti fake crowd noise? No, it's a little dystopian, but I get why they're throwing it out there. Yeah. I want to see the board of pretty good play, very good play, really good play, game-changing play. What sound is how quickly is do you think it's going to be a good play, but it's a bad play? Is there, how many options are there? What is the versatility of the board? But no, I don't know. In the NBA, it'd be funny. I would love to know if whoever's operating the Sixers board, if they decide to do that, if it's going to be when does the crowd turn?
Right.
When are we booing our own players?
Right.
And so I think that person should honestly have to answer questions on Kyrie's Zoom, so we know they should be held accountable for how they're going to handle it.
Does that person start to pick on the guy that misses too many threes?
Of course.
Danny Green get tormented by the fake crowd?
Yeah, does Danny Green have his own track, basically? Yeah, for sure.
So we had heard this, but the NBA is doing the series type thing when you go on the road and playing more than one game against a team, so you can cut down on travel.
Love it.
Sixers have Jan 2 and Jan 4 against Charlotte, which is, it seemed like was happening anyway. Jan 12 and 14 against the Heat.
I've never heard someone say Jan that many times. Is that saving a lot of time for you?
I'm just
You're cutting a lot of time out.
I guess because I'm saying it a bunch of times, maybe.
Jan, Feb.
Yeah, Jan Feb. Yeah, I say that a lot.
Do them all.
January 20th and 22nd against the Celtics, 23rd and 25th against the Pistons, and then one against Toronto in Feb on the 21st and 23rd against Toronto in Tampa Bay. I think these are actually kind of interesting because the NBA I'm dying. It's almond in my throat, not COVID. Just had to test yesterday. I know for sure it's not COVID. The NBA occasionally has a home and home when you play the same team twice in a row, but I actually kind of like this. I think it's interesting.
I totally agree. I think this should be the case always. I think that there's something about a playoff series when you're playing somebody, 5, 6, 7 times, and it's kind of good to get a little bit of a taste of that, I think, in the regular season of okay, you got 2 games against these teams, whether they're both at home or whatever it is. But how are you going to adjust in between games? What are you going to show them? That kind of thing. I think it's a fun bit of, scheme and strategy that it'd be good to show, especially against teams like, Miami and Boston and Toronto.
Some notable dates: Sixers versus the Rockets on February 17th. My question for you, Mike, is which team is James Harden on?
I think he'll be reffing.
Oh, okay, sure. Boy,
that's my hot take. There's been a lot of fire. I don't know if you can hear them, but it's been constant fire trucks this morning.
I can't hear them. I just hear me coughing.
That's good.
Sixers versus Horford on January 17th as they play the Thunder. The Horford revenge game.
If he shuts down Embiid, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up all over myself, everybody I know. I will break COVID protocol to throw up on people because if Horford shuts down Embiid.
I have news for you. That's going to happen. Like I'm almost sure.
It can't. It just can't. The
first 7 games. So, the Sixers are dealing with a lot of new players, a lot of new pieces, new coach. But their first 7 games are pretty easy. Wizards, Knicks, Cavs, Raptors, Magic, Hornets, Wizards.
Feels like 3 and 5
of their first 7 games. Oh, is that 8?
That's 8.
All right. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's 4 and 4 when it should be 6 and 2 or 7 and 1. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess the Hornets will be better. Will they? I mean, I assume they'll be better.
They should be better. I mean,
the Wizards will be better.
It depends on. Yeah, the Wizards definitely better. Cavs and Knicks are bad. Magic will certainly beat us 88-81. Mm-hmm. The Hornets, you should beat the Hornets. There shouldn't be no excuse to not beat the Hornets. I'm interested to see how they work in LaMelo, but Rozier, Devontae, Hayward, PJ Washington, like that's just got to be a win. It's got to be a win. If they start anything under 5-3. Cancel the season.
Oh yeah.
Just end it.
Trust me, there will be a lot of negative feelings if they start anything less than 5-3.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre to see a schedule and be like, "This is going to happen." It feels like you're making plans when you're at 2 a.m. when you're drunk with your friends, saying you're going to like go for a run at 6 a.m. Like it's like we'll see. I bet you're going to make all those games, and I bet no one's going to test positive. They friggin' 48. How many people already have it? Like at the moment, man, it's very bizarre. What a time to be. I get why they have to be doing stuff. I get why the players need to make money, and you lose money if they start in January and stuff. But it seems insane. It's crazy that the bubble worked, and it worked really well. And I get why they don't want to do it again. But like. Now we're just let's play a sport inside.
They're gonna play. I mean, like
I know it just seems like insane.
They'll be all right. I mean,
what a time.
I understand the concern, but I think of any sport, the NBA is the most cautious. They announced like 5 COVID people on each team. Like there's like a medical person. There's a person to make sure nobody's fucking up. I think they'll be all right.
We just don't know what these like long-term effects are. It's just and like if I don't like obviously these people are human and they need to care about themselves as humans. We care about them because we the guys that we like on the team, but also we want them to like thrive health wise, whatever. But like, we just don't know. Like there's plenty of guys that have gotten like really fucking like seriously irreparably injured from this, whether it's like heart conditions or whatever it is. And I just like, imagine if like, I don't want to say specific, but like who gets it? And then they're just like, well, now they're not the same player for the rest of their lives. Like it's just, it's just a scary thing. And it's such a weird thing to be existing and trying to do normal life in a pandemic when we just don't know a lot.
Well, something to understand is that this will never like go away. It's always going to be there. People are always going to die from it. Like even if it does get to like flu levels, and there are long-term effects of that disease. There are long-term effects of drinking alcohol. There are long-term effects of smoking pot. There are long-term effects. It's funny. Like everybody talks about football. Like we're all scared about COVID with football. Well, like these guys can't think after they're 45 years old. A lot of them can't walk after they're 50. So like, I understand what you're saying for sure. I get the concern, but I do think that the calculus, if you do it your way, is probably not to play for 2 more years. And I don't think anyone is doing that.
I'm not saying there's my way, man. I'm just saying it's like, it's scary. It's a scary thing. And I Carl Anthony Towns had 6 family members die from this.
It
And
is.
there's something something very affecting of your life what's way short of death. If you're unable to breathe and stuff for a long time, there's a ton of stuff. It's just like, I'm not saying what they should do or shouldn't do. I generally don't know. And I get why the league has to make money. I'm just saying it's like, it is a scary proposition because of how long this virus has been here and how long it's been uncontrolled and how it's like, just trying to get back to some semblance of normal life for a lot of people, like whether it's college teams or anything. It's just like, it's a lot of just like, it'll probably be fine. And a lot of times I'm sure it will. And a lot of times it fucking won't.
Well, another thing to consider that I don't think people do very often is we talk about frontline workers, and they're all very important, obviously, that, people that work in hospitals, so on and so forth. But like there are, for all of those people who can work at home, there are actually like a lot of industries where people have to go to work, like a lot for everybody to work at home, everybody who uses internet, everybody who uses fucking paper, and anyone who uses any food at all, and it's not just the grocery store, it's the plants where they're made. It's the delivery people, whether it's UPS or USPS or whatever. And there's a whole world out there of people who have to for our world to go on, and who don't get the benefits of what basketball players are going through. So it's a crazy time for sure. But I think they are given a lot of benefits to have their industry go on. And as I've said before, it benefits a lot of people whose industries depend on it too. So fingers crossed that everybody, that 99.9% of the people who play and are with these teams end up healthy and get through it in a good way. I think, I'm glad they're doing it, but I certainly understand every concern that all of them have and that you have. I get it. I understand. Speaking of a lot of games, the first 5 weeks of the season, the first, I think 38 days or something, they play 22 games and 5 back-to-backs. I think it'll be interesting specifically to see how much rest a lot of these guys get, but specifically Embiid and Simmons, specifically, and Simmons too. We've always talked about Embiid, but I think Simmons is an interesting one here too.
Well, look, that's why you pay Al Horford. You have him here for the back-to-backs, especially. I don't know. I think there's going to be between. I think it's very smart to release half the schedule. I think if you're going to do it, that is a smart way to do it, so you can have time to reschedule stuff.
Mm-hmm. If you have to shut down for a week of everybody, which is possible.
I mean, baseball, like the Cardinals had played like 8 games when everybody else had played like 20. And it's baseball, so you can kind of do that a little bit more. But like it's hard that is taxing on players' bodies to do that, to play that many back-to-backs. If like weeks at a time have to get shut down or something. So I
think one thing they could do is by announcing All-Star break without the All-Star game, if they have to get rid of that, so they don't have to tack on time to the end and reschedule a couple of games in there. I think that's possible. I would also guess it's possible that they say, hey, we're only going to play 68 games and not 72. If they get to a point where they have to shut down for a couple of weeks and they can't make up games. But yeah, it's not like baseball in that you can't play 2 basketball games on one day.
Although I think if you let guys, if they had just expanded the draft to 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and let their G League guys play, and then you just play like a minor league game that counts, I'm into that. Mm-hmm. Let's see it.
Yep. Before we get to Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid's quotes, Big Barker dog beds here forever. I noticed I do have 2 Big Barkers in my house. We have one in our basement and then one in the bedroom. And I realized what a lucky fucking life my dog is living. But he deserves it. And your dog deserves a good life. And your dog can't have a good life unless your dog sleeps on a proper mattress. Big Barker is the only proper
My friend
mattress.
is getting my good friend who listens to this podcast is getting a dog today.
Oh.
And texted me last night asking if he should get a Big Barker. And so I think we're going to make that happen. He's picking her up at the shelter today.
Nice. And adopt, don't shop.
Yeah.
I appreciate that out of your friend as well. We,
of course.
we got a really good new process pup, Princess Leia, a 6-month-old lab pit mix who was rescued in South Jersey from the Wolf Love Rescue. The reason I say that like your dog deserves it is, and why Big Barker is the right one, is because it is a legit mattress that legitimately supports your dog's joints. It's been proven, actually proven. There was a study at Penn and showed that just, better gait, better quality of life, all of those things. And it is a real quality thing that was made for this reason. If you go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, you not only get the bed, but you get the process pup patches, so you can iron it on. This is right here if you're watching the YouTube. Pretty great logo by our friend Tanner. And dogs, we've mentioned this before, dogs develop arthritis just like people. Their joints need to be supported just like people. They need to sleep comfortably just like people. Think about how you fall asleep on the couch and you wake up the next day, you're all creaky. Same with a dog. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. 1 year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if your dog won't sleep on it, no problem. Just return it. They'll even pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds.
Woof.
All right. So Ben and Joe spoke. Now, Ben spoke first, I think. I'm pretty sure. Now, before we get to the actual Ben thing, the day before, they told the media that Ben was going to talk. They waited for 2 hours, and Ben decided not to talk. One thing that I don't think anyone said publicly is that both Alex Subers and Sean Tribe were on the Zoom, the Ben Simmons media availability the first day. And I had also heard that this was like a kind of a regular occurrence for Ben that happened a lot previously. Everyone sort of did like their defend the athlete sort of thing. Like they don't have to talk to the media if they don't want to, like stop acting like it's such a big deal. I think two things. The first thing is, this is the kind of, forget about the media for a second. Like this is the kind of bullshit that other players are going to resent. It was one of the things in the article about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Like if they don't get to make the media wait 2 hours, then you shouldn't do it either. And you should accomplish something before you start having your photographer buddy and your brother on the press conference call. But the other thing is, like, I think everyone's life is tougher now, including reporters. And I think like making them sit around and wait for you is shitty. So I don't know that it was specifically his fault, but I also know that it wasn't the first time he did it. And I also think it kind of sucks. And I think it's a bad look to his teammates. I don't know I would imagine you feel less enthusiastic about it.
No, I mean, I'm sure it sucks for the reporters.
Yeah.
There's plenty of, be a human being. There's plenty of people that are assholes and make people wait. Don't do it.
Yeah. Shouldn't do it. And I don't think it means that you're being, I think, criticizing them, because reporters get like crushed when they complain about this stuff, is like, they have shit to do just like everybody else, So if you're not going to, if you don't like, he clearly doesn't like talking to the media. He's generally annoyed by it the whole time. Like, just come in and give short answers and then get out of there, and they'll care a lot less about your media availability anyway. He had one joke, congratulations, that was told so dryly that nobody was sure if it was a joke. And it did ignite Sixers Twitter for a moment, that he and Joel were going to move in together for a month so he could learn more about Joel off the court. Would have been amazing. Would have been a great moment for you. Better than Napa, I think, right? Moving in together.
I mean, it would come with its own issues.
Like Joel's wife and kid, or his girlfriend and kid. Yeah,
that's one. How I would need to see some floor plans to see like how that would go before I'm ready to commit to it. But just doing like a nice weekend in Napa where they each have their own either hotel room or a little villa, I think that would be nice, and a little bit lower stakes would be what I'm looking for. So just positivity. Benny. But I like the joke, and I think that they should explore at least doing like an Airbnb together or something.
Oh, that would be great. Airbnb. You don't even have to go to Napa. I don't go to the Poconos, 2 hours away. We got an email question from Ben. If Embiid and Simmons actually did become roommates, who would be the Sharp and who would be the Mike in the living arrangement?
I think they're both the Sharp.
Which
I don't think either of them are Mike. Sharp carries himself as if he had the body of a professional athlete. Although he would say that I don't wear a shirt a lot, which is fine. I'm more comfortable that way. So for sure that I guess we have traits of it, but I would say Sharp has more like lounges like a professional athlete.
Okay.
And then eats a full rotisserie chicken like a professional athlete would, like a 21-year-old professional athlete. Yeah, I don't think either of them are Mike. I think they're both Sharps.
If one was going to be the Mike, it would be Ben, though, right?
I don't think so.
Really?
I think. I mean, my characteristic of my like broader sense of Andrew Sharp is that just kind of like getting to things on his own time and not really caring about stuff that much. Stuff that he cares about, he does care about. I'm not saying he's totally disaffected, but for the most part, he's kind of just like, all right, man. And I think that's kind of both of them.
Yeah. I
think that neither of them are, they both play video games. Neither Sharp or I are big video game folks, but like just imagining Sharp carries his laptop just like with one hand, just like closed, walks around with it. And I feel like that's such a athlete move. And it's just like, there's no me in either of those guys.
No case on his iPhone, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just tossing it.
Sharp
laundry everywhere.
Sharp is a very like, it's not that serious about almost everything. He doesn't take anything, which is a good trait to have in a lawyer.
For sure, a good attitude to have as a human, and absolutely, with in total honesty, that year of my life, I think I became a healthier person living with Sharp. Just to be like, you know what, you're right. It isn't that serious.
It doesn't matter.
But sometimes I get worked up still.
Yeah, I have a friend that when I want to buy something and I don't think I should buy it because it's not responsible, I'll text him and I'll say, should I buy this? Because I know he'll go, oh, come on, you only live once, buy it. So I think, there is something that makes life healthier if you have somebody like that around you. So some quotes. He was asked, I found out afterwards that the question about shooting was asked by my father. His response, it's important to make shots, but it's more important to win. So however the winning happens, it happens. I know Doc and Sam Cassell are going to put me in the right positions to do that and be dominant. So I'm just looking forward to being out there and seeing what they have to offer in terms of my situation on the floor and where I'm going to be.
We don't know that it's Sam Cassell.
Hinkie?
Could be Sam Hinkie. We don't know. I'm not going to assume anything.
Mike O'Connor, I had an interesting take on this. There's an article on rightsrickysanchez.com that he was actually glad that Ben didn't give if I'm open, I'll shoot it type thing. And there's been less Instagram videos of him shooting and that kind of thing, because if he's really not going to do it, like stop the charade and just sort of like head down and don't answer it, which is sort of what he did. And don't give people false hope. So there's a lot in here about like putting me in the right position to be dominant, looking forward to seeing what they have to offer in terms of my situation. Like he definitely seems curious as to what his role will be, I think, on the team,
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he's used. I mean, we haven't seen him. I think I said this last podcast, but both these guys have been with Brett for so long. It's going to be interesting to see another coach use them in a different way. And to see if like they look any different or they occupy space on the floor that's different. I mean, it's just going to be what you want is just Ben pushing the ball all the time and kicking out the shooters. And if the shooters aren't there, or at least the threat of the shooters are there, like get to the rim, actually dunk, actually get fouled. That's the stuff that I need to see, that he's willing to do that kind of stuff. And I'm glad that there's no off-season shooting videos as well. I can't bring myself to expect that anymore.
Well, to me, and his quotes about the playoffs, I thought him and Embiid had interesting quotes about the playoffs and accountability. But the thing for me is like Ben should push it. Ben should see if there's anything there. If there's nothing there, then there should be plan B, which includes initiation of offense, whether it's Ben at the nail or whether it's Joel, 15 feet away or in the post, whether it's Tobias Harris pick and roll offense. Like they have to, if there's nothing that he can do in half court offense from the perimeter, then like let's let him do his thing at first. And then if not, let's go to plan B almost right away if it's not there, which I think they never had, last year. They certainly didn't have after they lost Redick, the Redick thing seemed to be, or Redick and Butler. The next quote. So this was about Simmons talking about being in the bubble. We didn't know when we were going to get a bucket, who was going to get us a bucket. From that to knowing what we needed to be at all times, people being held accountable for certain things, whether it's a minor thing, it all plays a part. We weren't in position to go into the bubble and win. I think our mindset was off, and accountability is a huge part of winning. Bringing in Doc and these guys in and Doc's team with all these coaches around, the maturity has definitely risen with the team. And I think it's great to see that and see guys be held accountable for certain things and come here ready with a different mindset, and having those vet guys come in like Dwight, Danny Green, that's really setting the bar. And just,
I love that Sam Cassell's working for him. I think with him, I think that's a cool guy to be around. Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, well, I thought the next quote I thought was good because his first quote reminded me of Wentz. And what Wentz does all the time is when he doesn't play well, Wentz will say, we all got to play better, right? Like, and one of the things that Ben said here is like, people need to be held accountable, yada, 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 yada. But like the next quote, at least he pointed toward himself, which I think is important. You can't just come into a situation like the bubble if guys aren't ready and you don't have that chemistry and accountability ready. Doc and I have spoken about it. You could tell the teams that were doing well in the bubble were tight knit and were held accountable for certain things going on, and you could see it. You kind of see it with the Clippers now with things that are coming out. Same with us. Guys weren't held accountable, myself included. Which speaks
held accountable is becoming the I just want guys to be vulnerable on The Bachelorette.
Yeah.
It's just the thing that people say. They're just words. I get it.
Well, it's words in that, like, I think what people always want it to mean is that if Ben or Joel or whoever it is isn't doing what they're supposed to do, that the coach benches them, right? Which I don't think it always is. But I think there has to be this thing that they know that if you aren't doing this, the team cannot win because there's nothing for anybody to sort of like follow. If the best players on the team aren't doing it, then we cannot win. And I think like even if it's privately, Doc Rivers saying to them, and at least it being a new person, and we've said that, you said this in the last pod, even if Doc is, because it's not like Doc is some sort of taskmaster and he's never been thought of as such, but at least he has won, and at least he is a new face, and at least they're a little afraid that they don't know what he's going to do, So I'm at least glad that they look at this and they're like, we were a mess going into the bubble. Nobody was accountable to anything. We didn't have any chemistry. Like, I'm glad that he actually said it, and he actually says here, it all comes down to the players. There's only so much that can happen with players and coaches, and it's on the players to make sure they're held accountable. And if they're not going to listen and not going to do those certain things, they're not going to win. But I think it's a great opportunity for us, being younger guys, to have someone like Doc come in. So we have to get it done. And then, a quote about like Doc telling him and Joel that they're the leaders. And he says, only time will tell, but I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to work out well. So there we go.
Yeah. I think about Brett sometimes and just being like, what's his life like right now? Mm-hmm. How does he feel? What does Brett feel like he didn't do? Like everybody's spinning everything all the time. There's never a full honest assessment of what's going on until maybe years later. Even then it's colored by time and recollection and narratives and stuff. But I really wonder, like, what does he think that he didn't do well, and why did he not get there with them? And is it just sometimes you need just a new voice and stuff? I don't know. I seemed to like playing for him for a while, and then it seemed to kind of evaporate last year.
I always wonder what the right time to ask him, do you want to come on the pod and talk about it, is. I don't think he'll say shit. Well, I don't think he'll say yes to come on the podcast when he's not the coach anymore. Right. And I don't think that he would, even if he did, I don't think he would say anything negative at all. Yeah, I don't think he'd say anything negative. I think I think an interesting conversation about like the experience would give a lot of background to a lot of things. Even if you were like, even if you don't say, what could you have done with Ben to make him shoot? What could you have done with Joel to make him, take his conditioning more seriously? Not that, but just sort of, I think getting his perspective on the time in general, I think would be interesting. I just feel like it's got to happen before he gets a next job, but probably not yet. I don't know. I'd be very interested to hear what he has to say. And then the last quote from Ben was about Sam Cassell. I'm a very creative player. I'm able to make plays, whether it's scoring or getting somebody open or just making the right play. I think Doc is just allowing me to do that and put me in the right positions to do so. And then on top of that, I've been working with Sam a lot, and he's just breaking it down, putting my game to a certain speed, so where it's not always downhill and attack. Sometimes it's sizing guys up and taking my time.
That'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if that is like the only time I can remember Ben doing like a sizing guys up is like look at him for a little bit and then like turn it into a post up,
which stinks.
And so, which is not something I love, especially from that far away. And I don't mind Ben posting up and trying to make plays out of the post, because he's capable of that. He did it more at LSU. I'll be interested to see what that really looks like if he starts to break guys down off the dribble, especially in the half court. That would change things up for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, if he wasn't he looked like a better post player than he was. The biggest problem with him as a post player is that he's not trying to get fouled ever. What he's trying to do is he usually ends up with a lower percentage shot, whether it's sort of like a jump hook or a fade, even if he's bigger than the guy, or he's looking to get doubled and find somebody. But I just don't think the doubles came enough because everybody knew he wasn't great down there. So my thought would be is that I want the post-ups to happen where he is intent on getting fouled and create a situation where they have to double him. And until he does that, like the post-ups seem like wasted possessions to me. So before we get to Embiid, the other sponsor of this pod, Mike, I actually have good news about LL Pavorsky. We had been stuck on 202 engagement rings sold to rights to Ricky Sanchez customers. We're up to 204. He sold 2 in the last 2 weeks. So 204 engagement rings sold to rights to Ricky Sanchez customers. The other good news from LL Pavorsky, and I don't think we've talked about this much, is there's not going to be a holiday party this year. There was normally that LL had the amazing holiday party, would have amazing specials, but obviously no holiday party this year. But he is doing the 12 days of LL and different deals every day. So, of course, Hanukkah is coming up soon, like right next week, right? Isn't Hanukkah the 10th or the 11th or something? And then Christmas coming up the end of the month. If you go to LL's Twitter or his website or his Facebook, you can see different deals every day, awesome deals from LL. And honestly, you want something right now for the holidays, he's going to cut you a deal. You just go in, mention the Ricky, he's going to cut you a deal. You want to get engaged, he's going to cut you a deal. You want an anniversary present? He's going to cut you a deal. Whatever. Just tell him you're a Rights Ricky Sanchez listener. He can do it in person by appointment only, so he can make sure he can clean before and after everyone. You will be the only customer in the store if you do that. Socially distanced, cleaned, masked, and shielded from LL. Or you can do everything online if you want. Just reach out to him at LL Pavorsky on Twitter, Lee at llpavorsky.com, or call 215-627-2252. Always supporting our charities, Coded by Kids and the Providence Animal Center. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Moving in with me to improve our chemistry.
Ooh, would love to see that. Which sponsor would you like to room with most? So you don't know all of them. So we have LL, we have Kornblau, Ben from
I have to say
Connecticut.
LL just for we spent the most time together. I feel like
yeah,
I feel like
you know
I have
him
a
the
handle on
most.
each other.
Yeah.
I know him. I know his strengths and weaknesses. I know his little quirks. I got Pavorsky on the horn.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jake texted me last night, young Jake.
Pavorsky.
What a sweet. Yeah, it's weird to essentially have the role that Jake filled in my life when he was at Liberty Ballers and stuff is now pretty much filled by Sixers Adam.
Right.
And so it's weird in my mind, who I haven't met. And so in my mind, they're the same person. And so it's like, I got to be like, wait, no, they're different.
Yeah.
That's sweet guys. Come on.
Well, I've only met Sixers Adam one time, and it was from 20 feet away in his front yard. Like when we did the Zoomathon and I made the ID that he could put his face in, I had to drop it off at his house, but it was like in the beginning of COVID, the scariest time of COVID for sure, or the first scariest time. So I showed up at his house. I left it on the sidewalk and I waved to him he was at his house and I was on the sidewalk. Yeah, it is. Anytime somebody gets too old, we're like Menudo. We just sort of like get rid of them and bring somebody new. Or like a sitcom. Yeah. Who replaced somebody without notice, without anybody being told. Mike from By Nature, I don't know well enough. Eric seems like a fine from Big Barker seems like he'd be a fine roommate. Ethan from DraftKings seems like he'd be a fine roommate. Yeah, but I would go with that. All right, Embiid talked as well. Now, let me know if this seems like a shot at Al Horford to you. He says about Dwight Howard, I've never had any Hall of Fame big men around me as a coach or a player, so I think he's going to be great. Is that a shot?
At who?
Horford.
No, I don't think Horford's a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
I think that's pretty clear.
He's like,
he's obviously a good player a long time. He made, how many All-Star teams did he make? Like 1, 2?
No, I think it's 3 or 4, but to your point, yes, that's still not guaranteed Hall of Famer numbers.
Yeah. I think it's I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there making the Hall of Fame case for Al Horford the way I make it for Bobby Abreu, but I don't think he's been the best player on a team for any real length of time. Like that Hawks team, maybe a couple years, but like they didn't do anything. I don't think so.
By the way, the Phillies are now making the Bobby Abreu case. Like the Phillies as an organization are trying to get Bobby Abreu into the Hall of Fame.
Finally.
Yeah.
Taking my lead.
Anybody who watched that guy knows he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like that's
no, he's the man.
He's
he rules.
Actually not. Well, who has it? Well, Iguodala has a better Hall of Fame case than Horford. Just because maybe because of the Olympic and he does have a Finals MVP, right?
Finals MVP, I guess. I would probably put them along the same lines, and I would say they're probably not Hall of Fame players. But if Iguodala made it because of the Finals and because of being a part of that Golden State run, I wouldn't be like pissed off about it for sure.
And then we haven't talked about it, but Dwight Howard, who we were both pretty sour on as far as that signing, has had 2 sort of encouraging Zoom sessions in which he is actually talking like a vet and actually talking like somebody who knows specifically what mistakes he has made. Are you romanced at all by Dwight Howard's Zoom comments?
I don't have to hang out with him. So if they want him around, if they like being it, then sure. Do what you got to do. If everybody's happy, who am I to stand in the way of that? Fair
enough. Next quote. So this is the Ben and Joel issue about Ben Simmons. The notion of what people have been saying in the past, I just don't think it's true. On the court 2 years ago, when looking at spacing, we were able to dominate together. Our relationship is good. We've definitely been way closer, even on the court. If we have to work out, we're working out together, playing 2-on-2. You know, I want him on my team. The national media is always trying to create stories when they don't have anything to talk about, but we're fine. We know where we are and we know what our goals are.
It's crazy. I didn't expect him to read the statement I wrote for him word for word. But it's good. You know, he good delivery. I appreciate it.
I think the fairest, if you were to say it in two sentences, it would be do not hate each other, aren't super close. It would be really helpful if it starts to work better on the court because there isn't much of a bond otherwise. So let's just hope it starts to work on the court a little bit better.
I mean, they seem fine. It doesn't seem like it's a massive issue, and they're clearly not Dame and CJ. But like, there's things in between that, between like Harden and any of his teammates, and like being like the best friends in the world. There's the middle ground where you're like, yeah, we can make this work. And I do think that the sheer amount of time that they've spent together and like upheaval in this organization that they've been through sort of fuses you together to just be like, you know what, it's going to be us. If we're going to win this thing, it's going to be us. It's not going to be friggin' whether, they draft the guy that's going to develop into a solid role player or something. It's just going to fucking be us.
I was thinking about now that John Wall's traded, the first 4 years of Wall and Beal, like it'll really be tested what Embiid and Simmons are this year. This will be their fourth year playing together, right? I think so. Yeah. And the first 4 years of Wall and Beal, they made the playoffs. They missed the playoffs. I'm sorry, first 5 years. They missed the playoffs 1 year.
This will be the fourth. This coming year will be the fourth. Because they had the two 50-plus win seasons and then the bubble year and then this coming one. Yeah.
Right. So the Wizards with Wall and Beal won 2 playoff series, and then I think the second time, the 16-17 was the year that they went 7 games with the Hawks, I think. Or was that when they went 7 games with the Celtics? They looked like it was going to be something, the year, like I'm looking at, and both played really, really well in the playoffs. We like to think that these two guys are better than those two guys. But I would say that at the time, those two guys looked pretty promising, Yeah. And then there's this fork in the road, right? And then there's this moment where you either become what everybody thinks you can be, or it doesn't work and it sort of falls apart. And that was obviously like Wall's injury helped that along, but I think that probably may have happened anyway, because it seemed like it just wasn't going to happen. So this is a really important year for them, really important year for Ben and Joel, I think as players, but as a duo.
I like Wall and Beal together. Those teams were very good. Yeah. Because of them, they didn't have much help. I think it's tough. Like, I know I just said that for Ben and Joel, they have to realize that it's gonna take them. But I do think, like, there's no reason that Miami team should have gotten as far as it did. Jimmy Butler's a good player. Obviously, we talked about him, but like there's no reason why they should have been that good, aside from like they had a really good team that surrounded players with like that fit the right way, that were coached the right way. Like you can lift if that Wall and Beal team had been built around them the way the Miami team was, then they could have gotten to the championship. I mean, they were dealing with LeBron in the East, so a little bit different, but they could have at least had more success if they had better organization around them and not what's his name, Leonsis and those guys. Yeah. And so I do think it is like finally having some organizational stability where even if this isn't the year that they win the championship, whatever, but if it's so much clearer and cleaner and it makes so much more sense, and you can see like there's not like an anchor on this team when they play, because you can tell how poor the fit is, then I think that it can be a real like, okay, this is the team with Doc as the coach and Daryl as the GM building for, we're going to have like over the next 4 years, we're going to have 2 really good chances to get to a championship. Mm-hmm. Then let's do it. Like, let's make that count. And it's injuries is obviously a thing that could hold us back. But I think that this is the kind of stability and like, I mean, since he left, like the management of this team has been so bad, and that's while we were having the 2 of the best young stars of the last 40 years outside of Barkley and Iverson, and so like to fuck it up that bad is embarrassing. And so now that we're like hopefully back in a place of stability and actual like sure-handed leadership. Let's make it count over the next few years, because you're right. I think it can absolutely go away in a second. And so they need to make sure they're making it as, not preventing them from getting to a championship like they have been in the past couple of years, but like surrounding them in the best possible way for them to succeed.
I think we will know, regardless of where they finish in the playoffs, I think we will know at the end of the year whether it's been a success feeling wise. I don't think they have to get to I genuinely don't think they have to get to the finals or win the finals. But I think after this year, we have to look at the team and say, have we seen proof of a best player on a championship team, and not occasional proof, which is what we've always seen from Embiid and Simmons, is a game here and a game there. But you can't just say that a player who has the ability to have a great game has the ability to do that constantly, because that's the difference. There are plenty of players that have occasional great games. Like everybody in the fucking league does. Every starter in the league does. So I think there will be let's say they lose in the second round again, there will be consternation over the fact that they lost in the second round. But I think we will be able to know deep in our hearts whether this is going in the right direction, regardless of whether they win that round or not, And it felt like to me that it was when they lost to Boston in 5, when it was that series was closer than 5 games. It should have been better than that. And I would say that, the Kawhi thing made it worse, but that team, I did think that, as we talked about, that team could have beat Milwaukee, and then the Warriors could have gotten hurt. That could have been it. Like that could have been the thing. So it turns so quickly, for so many reasons. And so hopefully these guys stay healthy enough for us to see it through. A couple other ones. I felt like we didn't have what we needed, especially when it came to shooting, because nowadays in the NBA, you've got to be able to shoot the ball. You've got to be able to space the floor. It's hard to play inside out all the time. I led the league in post-ups this past year, but people still want me to post up more. That's understandable. Yep. But then again, you've got to find a balance. And he goes on to say, like, he talks specifically about struggling in the half court. We always need to know what the game plan was. We didn't know what to do in half court.
That was clear last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to everybody. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the game was, can we please get Raul Neto in the game so he can run some offense, which is
crazy.
Dark.
Yeah. Real dark. And then he says, they asked him about playing up tempo, and he says, I think we can mix in both for sure. But when you think about the game, especially in the regular season, especially the first 3 quarters, you've got to get stops and you've got to run. But when you get to the fourth quarter and the defense toughens up, it's hard to get those opportunities. Now you get to half court offense and the game sort of slows down. So, the fingers crossed. Few mailbag questions. Writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. If you're going to send in questions, one basketball and one non-basketball, or somehow have your one question mix in both basketball and non-basketball. Ben, who emailed, we read his email before about Simmons and Embiid and which one's the sharp, also asks, for years now, the national media and self-proclaimed body language experts have speculated on every aspect of Ben and Joel's relationship. Mike has commented repeatedly that he wishes they would go on a weekend vineyard getaway to prove to their fans their commitment to each other. Over the same period, some of us listeners have wondered about a similar strain in the Spike and Mike relationship. The famed Colangelo argument of 2016. Mike's,
what is that?
What's that?
What is the famed Colangelo argument?
This was actually a pretty big argument. It was when I remember Reddit fights over it. It was when, I said, it was toward the end of the year, if anyone wants to find it. I said, it's pretty clearly Colangelo's not doing a good job. And you actually pushed back on me. And it became a long fight, on the pod about what sort of job Colangelo's doing. I don't bring it up because I had bad ones in the past.
Well, it was he hasn't fucked up yet. That was what I said. And then slowly over the years, he just kept hitting C minuses, and it actually got worse once Colangelo left.
Yeah.
That's solid.
The famed Colangelo argument of 2016, Mike scoffing at Spike's annual big board, Spike's side podcast, et cetera, et cetera. With numerous mentions recently about how neither of you speak much outside the pod, I have one question. Mike, will you commit to a weekend-long vineyard getaway with Spike once the pandemic ends? Us amateur body language experts are worried about the future of the pod and want assurances before Lou Butler steals Spike away forever.
Wow.
Well, commitment?
Sure. I'll commit to a vineyard getaway.
Wow. Post-pandemic vineyard getaway?
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm in too. Live pod.
There you go.
Okay. This comes from.
I got to put my money where my mouth is if I'm asking Joel and Ben to do the same thing.
Totally fair. And he doesn't even mention the Evan Turner, Dion Waiters argument that we both very sadly lost. The
Michael Franco argument, which never aired. I wish I had it somewhere. I wish I had that somewhere. We've figured out better ways to argue with each other over the years. This comes from Ryan R. This may be a strange question, but it's something I've always wondered. After the pod, Mike says, yeah, you know, Lickface at the end of the pod. Do you guys just end your call and not talk to each other until you have to schedule the next pod? Or do you recap how it went? Same goes for the beginning of the pod. Does the Zoom or call between you two just start with Spike saying the rights to Ricky Sanchez is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook? A lot of interest.
Yeah.
A lot of interest in the machinations here. At the end of the pod, I usually say, all right, buddy.
And then that's it.
Once it's uploaded and then we call it. And at the beginning, I ask if my mic is working. And you say, yeah.
You know, everybody wants all this excess pod talk.
We talk so much.
We talk 3 hours a week. Like, how much? I don't talk to anybody that long.
No, I don't.
Which is anytime anybody has anything negative to say about the job that sports talk hosts do, realize that these people talk to each other and argue about sports for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and do not murder each other. Like we do it for 3 hours a week. And I couldn't imagine doing it for 20 hours a week. It's incredible.
The people that have been doing the like post your Spotify thing of the songs you've listened to and stuff. I wish there was that for how long you've talked to people in your life, because it'd be very clearly like you, Alyssa, and Patrick would be there. And then it would be no one else forever. It would be like how much Embiid, Simmons, and Tobias are getting paid. And then like, what is Shake making? Like it is.
Yep.
So it is the gap is a cavernous gap.
Before we go, as we mentioned, as the emailer brought in Lou Butler, we are we're going to post over at Carl Landry Record Club, the music podcast. We're going to post people's best of 2020 Spotify playlist. So if you were getting anybody from Team Ricky who wants to play along, Moot and I are obviously post ours. But if you go to carllandryrecordclub.com, you can give us your best of 2020, just 90 minutes or less, and we'll post them on the site. And I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else?
You know, I watched I was looking through my photos yesterday, and I was looking through some pictures, and I came across the video of the whatever we called it, the Blue Coats night.
Oh yeah,
where we banged the drum, which was great, and then I got jobbed into a mic and drill with the 7'4" center on the Blue Coats, Chris Kumaji.
Yep.
And I'm pissed off again. I'm mad again.
Wow,
it's bullshit.
Well. So,
and I did an okay job. I missed twice because I was trying to go too fast because he started doing like basically just back, didn't even move for it. It was just left ball, right ball. And so I missed two, got fast, but I caught up. I hustled pretty good. And that is the spirit of my energy is missing, but hustling enough to make it okay. And it made it a respectable, but I am still pissed off about it. I still demand, I don't think Kumaji is going to be on that team anymore. I'm actually not sure. But I demand a 3-point contest against a big man who can't shoot. I demand it.
Well, we have to give credit. So it was Alex over at the Blue Coats, and I have two. I'm glad they let us do it.
The Wilmington Screw Job.
The Wilmington Screw Job. That's what everyone calls it. There's a book coming out. I'm glad that we did it. I thought it was fun. We There were more people. They sold more tickets to that Blue Coats game than any game in the history of the Blue Coats. They sold it out. My two complaints. Well, first of all, it was Alex that screwed you. I did not know it until the night of. Now, it seems like he probably had a hard time getting somebody who wanted to have lose in a 3-point shooting contest against a podcaster. But
well, maybe he should have had him listen to the podcast for a few weeks beforehand, so he get excited about meeting us.
But very true, very true. And maybe we could have had that person on. We could have had that person on the pod.
Would have been great for his brand. See, I'm not thinking about it enough.
Incredible for his brand. And the other thing that we need to fix the next time that happened is apparently, so we banged the drum, and you look at the pictures, and we had talked about the game being sold out, which it was, and you look at the crowd and the pictures while we're banging the drum, and it looks like half empty. And by halftime, it looked full. And apparently, they did not get more parking attendance, and they normally get like 100 people in there, and they had, I think, 2,000. So people were waiting, and our very nice listeners did not complain about it, but people were waiting to park for about 90 minutes, I think, beforehand. So we have to make sure.
Somebody should paint in all those fans so that our picture with the drum looks better.
That is if somebody could do that. That was fun banging the drum, and I did hurt my shoulder banging the drum. So
well, I hit the edge of the drum with like my forearm. So I almost cried in front of people. And that's why, and honestly, that's probably why I missed a couple of those shots. So that's what happened. Otherwise I would have won.
Well, when we can do crowds again, we will return to the Blue Coats, and Mike demands a 3-point shooting contest against the big man.
That's right.
All right, we will. We'll talk to you later this week. When's the first Sixers game? The 15th. So we're 10 days away.
We're
the first preseason game. Are you down with TTP?
Then I won't fuck with you.
I'm sorry, just reacting to how soon it is. Oh, okay. Yeah, lick face.
But trust me, I'm miserable about it. Like the games we're gonna be watching 5 games a week. Anyway, all right. Yeah. Lick face.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
But if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Time for plan B.